It's a big rivalry this week. Tennessee at Alabama. We are going to dive deep into the film. First, starting off with Tennessee's offense, their strengths. Joey Aguilar, great pocket presence, great delivery and ball placement. The guy makes plays. He's had a great year. Secondly, he has not been pressured too much. Tennessee's pass protection is very good, and their wide receivers have been making a lot of elite plays on some 50-50 balls. And then, as always, Tennessee's tempo can definitely cause some fits on other teams' defenses. Some question marks for their offense. First and foremost, Aguilar does throw a few too many 50-50 balls. The receivers have been making plays up to this point, but he does take some unnecessary chances. They've gotten a little lucky this year so far. Secondly, they struggled to establish the outside run game. And then the inside run game, specifically gap scheme, sometimes they struggle to get it going without utilizing tempo. And then staying on that side of the ball when Alabama is on defense. First, their strengths. They do a really good job of defending perimeter run. They also have very disciplined linebackers. Anytime the tight end falls back or anytime it's boot, they do a really good job of staying disciplined, sticking to their assignment, and not just blindly going with the offensive line. They do a good job of getting home with 4. They don't need to send 5 to get home to the quarterback oftentimes, and sometimes when they do, they have some problems, and they're really good tackling in open space. Some questions for their defense. The plus run game. Anytime they face a running quarterback, they have struggled. They struggle a little bit in man coverage as well. They also have been very inconsistent defending the flat wheel. I'll get into some clips with that. And they seem to try to get into the perfect play call a lot, and it affects them getting the call in late. Sometimes they're not even aligned at the time of the snap, which could be a problem against Tennessee. Now into the film, first starting with Alabama's struggles in man coverage. This play right here is simply cover one hole or cross or robber, where it's man all across the board, and then the boundary safety opposite the nickel is playing the low hole. You can see anytime Alabama has been caught in man, they have been tested, and oftentimes they have not passed that test. And Joey Aguilar is a quarterback that is going to give his receivers chances when he identifies man coverage. So Alabama is definitely going to be tested this week. Different concept here for Alabama, still man coverage, but now it's cover 0 with a couple rats or bandits in the low hole area. Again, Missouri identifies man coverage across the board. And a lot of the passing yards that Bama has given up this year have come on man defense. And even in zone, I've talked about this before, the defense is not defending space on the field. They're defending the offense. So in this picture, Georgia's playing cover 4. Yes, the safeties are playing deep quarters, and the nickel and dime are playing quarter flats. But even in cover 4, there has to be some sort of match principles where the corners are playing man except shallow on their receivers. So they're essentially locking on, and they end up playing man when the receiver establishes a vertical route. Joey Aguilar is the type of quarterback that will identify that immediately and test you in what's essentially man coverage. And not only has Alabama failed some tests on the perimeter in the passing game and man coverage, this is also when they give up most of their yards scrambling. When they're in man defense, they do a pretty good job in zone defending the quarterback scramble, but in man, they have struggled a little bit. Which leads me to some of the struggles they've seen in the plus run game against the quarterback. Obviously, against Florida State, that was a problem. Issue is they still have some problems. This is a very similar play. The only difference is the Y is slipping from the opposite side. They keep struggling with this, and while Tennessee's not a team that is going to run Aguilar to the ground, they do have that threat. As you see, these last 3 plays are very similar to Aguilar's rushing touchdown against Georgia here. Because all a quarterback run game is an extra number, hence why it's called the plus run game. You're adding that number into the run fit, and that's something that Alabama has definitely struggled with. So I would be curious to see if Tennessee, with a somewhat struggling rushing offense, goes to the plus run game a little more than they have in the past. And so we've talked about Alabama's man coverage, and then we talked about the plus run game. Now I want to talk about them defending the flat wheel. So this concept right here is a corner blitz, likely with 3 match behind it, which you can check out in this video on the top right. I think it's 3 match because very rarely do you blitz a corner and then play country cover 3 behind. But if they were, this is what it would look like. Although, again, I do think it's 3 match, where the rotating safety is supposed to match the X receiver. And then the curl flat defender is really the DO2 defender responsible for matching number 2, who ends up running a flat wheel. Either way, regardless of what it is, someone is wrong here. Either if it's country cover 3, the corner needs to midpoint and be ready to help on that wheel, or if it's match 3, the curl flat defender / DO2 defender needs to drop on 2 and cover him. They have struggled defending this concept, regardless of what call they're in. Here they are weeks later against Missouri. Now this is true country cover 3. The corner passes off the post to the free safety, and then he plays off to help out the wheel, and he still does it unsuccessfully. Bad news for Alabama fans. It's not going to get any easier. Look at the Z receiver at the point of the bunch to the field. He ends up running a wheel to the boundary from the opposite side of the field. This is very difficult to defend, especially with the defense that already struggles to defend the flat wheel. The one time I've seen them defend the wheel route well was in this play against Missouri, but I don't like the concept that Missouri ran. They ran a snag from number 1, so that allowed the corner to pass that off to the curl flat defender, and then the corner was free in open space in a clue third, able to pick this off. So if Tennessee is going to continue to be successful with a post wheel combination, they're going to want to make sure that they grab that corner by running him vertical and not running a snag route here where the corner can pass him off. And now on to Tennessee's tempo. With a somewhat struggling rushing game, you can see here the ref is just setting the ball down, getting out of there. Georgia's linebackers are still getting a line. The DN just got into a stance. Quick 5 yards. That's where a lot of the rushing yards come from in tempo. You can see here now on the other side, Bama gets their call in late. They align late, and they give up an explosive. So if Tennessee is going to get the ground game going, I can see it happening via tempo. Because when Bama's defense is aligned, they are very good stopping the run, especially the perimeter run. And then Tennessee's run game, this play right here in a critical second down in overtime against Georgia, they do not see too much success on the perimeter because it's Bama's defensive line, their linebackers, their defensive backs. All of them are very good at getting off blocks in open space and shutting down the perimeter run game. And the bad news for Tennessee, again, minus tempo, is their gap scheme run game is not much better. So they're going to need to look for some ways to get the run game going. I think quarterback run and tempo. Alabama's linebackers, as I said, they are very, very disciplined. Look at this misdirection play right here. Check out our boy Nakai Hill-Green, Michigan alum. Very easy for him to go with the offensive line flowing right, but he stays disciplined. His key's the tight end. He flows back with the tight end, makes an elite play in open space. You see a lot of that with this Alabama team. They're really good. This play right here is one of my favorite. A very good play designed by Missouri. It is a split zone. It's almost like a double split zone. The tight end, the Y, and the H in motion are falling back. Look at it from this view. The Y motion's in, and he gets set. Okay, so these are the 4 gaps that the defensive line are responsible for, which means you have the open A gap to the right, the open B gap to the left, and the open D gap to the left. So your 3 run fitters are the rotated safety and the 2 linebackers. But Missouri runs split zone. So the tight end falls back to block the end. That means he's essentially taking his D gap from the left side and putting it on the right side. So this is what we often call a fall fit in the run fit world. So now the new run fits are this. They have to fall back a gap. But wait, there's more. Missouri motions the H across the formation. So it's like a double fall fit. So now there's a new D gap and a new E gap. So now the run fits play out like this. They all have to fall back 2 more gaps. And if you watch number 0 here, he falls back, plays this perfectly, makes the tackle at the line of scrimmage. Again, Alabama's linebackers are so disciplined. Tennessee is going to have to find ways, not just post-snap, but pre-snap as well. You see here on boot, it would be easy for the linebackers to flow with the offensive line. Instead, they flip and find. They stay disciplined on the read keys, and nothing is open in boot. And that takes us to the passing game, where Alabama's pass rush has seen significant success, only sending 4 to the quarterback. They've done a really good job, especially in zone, of sending 4. They have good pass rush lanes, and when the quarterback tries to evade, the linebackers do a good job of having eyes on the quarterback, stepping up and making the play. And Bama does some really good stuff on the back end. You can see Missouri try to motion to get a man zone ID. They get a zone ID. The corner does not travel with the receiver, so they think they're getting zone. But instead, Alabama is in a zone-aligned man, which is very dirty. They have a corner covering a tight end, throws off the quarterback. And then the very next time Missouri tries that same man zone ID, Alabama does the same thing, but this time they're actually in zone. And that's how they end up getting the game-winning interception. So this is an interesting matchup. Alabama will try to confuse Aguilar, who can make plays. This guy can put the ball exactly where he wants to very often. He's good on the run, great pocket presence. But the one potential for downside that I do see in this game is Aguilar's tendency to throw 50-50 balls. Sometimes it works out, like this, but other times it doesn't, like later in the game, a costly interception on a 50-50 ball. So we'll see how much he's able to protect the ball. I think this game does come down to Aguilar not throwing an interception or Alabama confusing him enough and getting enough pressure on him, which we'll see because Tennessee's pass protection has been very good. So there are a lot of good matchups to see on that side of the ball. Now to the other side of the ball. Starting with Alabama's strengths, you can tell that offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb and quarterback Ty Simpson have tremendous chemistry, always getting into the right play. Ty has elite ball placement, and he's always making the right decisions. He's protecting the football, rarely ever putting it in harm's way. The questions I have, the pass protection, the tackles, and the running back and pass protection are a little iffy. And then establishing the gap scheme run game. Would like to see a little more consistency from them there. Tennessee's defense. Their strengths. Pass rush. Very good edge rushers. They get to the quarterback with 4. They haven't done a tremendous job stopping the run. However, they have done a decent job mixing in fronts, going from an over front to an odd front, or an even front to an odd front, and vice versa. And they've done a pretty good job defending gap scheme runs. Now, where they aren't good is the perimeter run game and situational run game, like third down runs, and then the plus run game defending the quarterback as well. So I do think part of this game could come down to whichever team decides to run their quarterback a little more than the other. But getting into the film, we'll start with the Ryan Grubb-Ty Simpson relationship. You can see them check the play. They see cover 3. He now knows it's cover 3. Boom. Hole shot in the seam between the corner and the post safety. Yes, he dropped it, but it was technically targeting. Don't even get me started with targeting. But Ty Simpson does a very good job of reading and anticipating defenses. I mean, you can see a hole shot against cover 3 between the curl flat and the clue third corner. That's very rare. You see this shot right here on the sideline. He is elite at delivering the ball. He is a very confident quarterback. He's very confident when he delivers the ball, but he's also a very smart quarterback. He makes very good decisions. He knows when to take the shot, but he also knows when to check it down, and he even knows when to scramble. And he's pretty dangerous with his feet when he scrambles. He doesn't look to scramble, but when he's decisive, and he does, he's pretty darn effective. So I look for him to have a pretty good game, with the exception of pass protection. I am very curious to see how Alabama's pass protection holds up against Tennessee's pass rush. You see there, that's a very good delivery under pressure, but against Missouri, the tackles and the running back got exposed greatly against Missouri's edge rush. You can see these clips. The right tackle doesn't do a tremendous job in pass protection. The running back also struggles to pick up the blitz here, and that's when Ty gets uncomfortable, right? I mean, like any quarterback does, they got to give him time because, man, is he going to deliver. You can now see Tennessee's pass rush against Georgia. They get home just sending 4 all the time. And so that's something that Alabama is going to have to either show improvement by the tackles in the back, or they're going to have to bring in an extra number, which is going to make things interesting because now when you have 7 in coverage, if you're Tennessee defending only 3 or 4 in the passing game, that's where Ty can be a little limited, just not having the numbers that he would otherwise have if he only had 5 or 6 in pass protection. So very interested to see what Alabama's strategy is to hold off Tennessee's pass rush. Now, Tennessee's defense has given up some long passing plays, specifically in that game against Georgia. And they're not known for defending the run, but they have done a pretty good job of defending the inside run game, including gap scheme. They like to shift to odd fronts. They'll go from odd to over to odd. They like to mix up their defensive front looks. Causes a little confusion for the offensive line. And so I'll be interested to see if Tennessee can hold Alabama's run game. I think they will have success in the inside run game and gap scheme, like I said. Where I'm a little concerned is the perimeter run game. They did not have success against Georgia in the perimeter run game. The big play in overtime that essentially won the game for Georgia was a perimeter run. They also didn't have too much success defending the quarterback in the plus run game, which was somewhat rare for Georgia to do, but when they did it, they didn't have much success. So we will see how they hold up against Alabama's rushing game. Keys to the game when Tennessee is on offense. Tempo, tempo, tempo. They got to go up. They got to catch Alabama sleeping. They got to run the quarterback, and they have to test Alabama's flat defenders and run a lot of flat wheels in various ways, as you saw in the Georgia game. Alabama, their defense has to get the call in and live with it. They can't try to get into a perfect play. I do think Tennessee goes up tempo a lot, so Alabama is going to have to get the play in early. They have to rush 4. They cannot rush 5. The second they rush 5, that's when Aguilar can extend the play, and he'll throw a 50-50 ball, or even worse, throw it to a receiver who's going to win the one-on-one. So Alabama has to win the 50-50 throws. They have to get home with 4, not try to get fancy and rush 5 or 6. And then I do think the more zone Alabama plays, the better. The more man they play, I think they lose those one-on-one matchups, and they're more susceptible to Aguilar scrambling. When Alabama's on offense and Tennessee's on defense, Alabama has to establish the outside run game early. They have to go to the screen game too. They did run a lot of screens against Wisconsin successfully, and they need to protect Ty, whether it's the tackles and running backs improving, or if they have to bring in a 7th in pass protection. I think they need to do it because Ty will deliver the ball where it needs to get. He just needs some time. Defensively for Tennessee, they have to continue mixing in fronts. They have to win on first down. They cannot allow Alabama to establish the run on first down consistently. And then Tennessee is going to have to get them in passing situations, and they must capitalize on those passing downs and get to the quarterback just sending 4. My prediction. I don't like predictions. That's why they play the game. But I do think Alabama runs the ball a little more effectively than Tennessee. Not by much, though. I don't think either team has too much success on the ground. I think Tennessee's pass rush will get home on Ty Simpson. And I do think on offense, Tennessee's tempo will get to Bama here and there, and they will gash them once or twice off of tempo alone. But I do think the difference maker is Alabama in the turnover battle. I don't trust Aguilar to not turn the ball over at all the whole game. I do trust Ty to do that. So I do think Alabama's defense causes a little more confusion, and they do get a turnover or two. But I do think this game's a lot closer than what Vegas is predicting. I think Tennessee covers. The thing I'm most confident in is the over hitting. I think this is going to be a game where neither team can establish the run too much, so the clock's going to stop a lot because they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. It's going to be a high-scoring game, and I think Tennessee covers, but Bama wins. So, of course, based on my prediction, the score is probably going to end up being like 7-3 Tennessee. So do with that what you will. But that's why I like diving into the film more than I do with just gut feeling predictions. So we'll see. I think this is going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be a shootout. And I think this game comes down to if Alabama can force a turnover or two, I think that'll be the difference maker.